Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees from Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. These are our daily adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. My name is Madhavananda Das, and today we're continuing with our topic we're calling Meeting in Kurukshetra, and this is session number 47. Yeah, please do. You can put it sideways if it's easier.
If I keep like that, it will be okay?
Yeah. This brings better. This is number 47 of our series we're calling Meeting in Kurukshetra. And this is the third discussion about Uddhava Meets the Gopis. And today we're going to speak about how Uddhava's pride gets crushed. We'll offer a few prayers first. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Goloruhadam Goranga Gudatama Gopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gadarati Dam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavadam Satatam Namami Uttama Narayanam Namaskrityam Naramschavanarotamam Divyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Vedi Ramayanishchaiva Purane Bhadate Tata Adavante Chamadye Chahari Savatra Giyate Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shigurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka Name Vandavela Parikori Be Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Paraye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam, the king of all literatures. This is Canto 10, Chapter 47, the Brahmara Gita, text number 1 to 2. Shri Shukuvacha Tam Viksha Krishnanucharam Brajastriya Pralamba Bahum Navakanjalochanam Pitambaram Pushkaramalinam Lasan Mukaravindam Parimrishta Kundalam Suvishmitav Kovayam Apaividarshana Kutascha Kashyat Chutta Vesha Bhushana Itisma Sarva Parivavra Utsukas Tam Uttam Shloka Padam Bhujashrayam. Hare Krishna Jagadam Prabhu, nice to see you. So, we're just beginning our discussion on Brahmara Gita. This is the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, and Uddhava meeting the Gopis. Shukadeva Goswami said, the young women of Braj became astonished upon seeing Lord Krishna's servant, who had long arms, whose eyes resembled a newly grown lotus, who wore a yellow garment and a lotus garland, and whose lotus-like face glowed with brightly polished earrings. Who is this handsome man, the gopis asked. Where has he come from, and whom does he serve? He's wearing Krishna's clothes and ornaments. Saying this, the gopis eagerly crowded around Uddhava, whose shelter was the lotus feet of Lord Uttama Shloka, Sri Krishna. So, in his commentary, in his Laghu Vaishnava Toshani, Srila Jiva Goswami, he describes, you feeling okay today, Prabhuji? You?
I'm okay.
You look a little worn.
Yeah, I am, but I'm okay. Nothing unusual.
Okay. In Laghu Vaishnava Toshani, Jiva Goswami describes that when the gopis saw Uddhava, they recognized him as a follower of Krishna. Why? Because of certain physical external symptoms. And that's a very interesting thing. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says there are two types of persons, Bahirmukjanas and Antarmukjanas, or external and internal persons. And in various places he describes the external persons as those who try to judge someone based on their dress, based on their appearance, the color of their skin, their nationality, something. But on the other hand, here in this verse, we're hearing something about how the gopis, as soon as they see Uddhava, immediately they felt some joy and happiness. And Uddhava also felt some happiness upon seeing the gopis. So they recognized him as a follower of Krishna because he had certain symptoms. In Vedic literature, there's a science of physiognomy and of bodily features. It said, for example, one of our godbrothers who was a police chief in Cuttack, you remember? What's his name? Radha Binod Prabhu. He passed away a few years ago, I think, didn't he? No, he's still alive? Must be a very old man.
He's strong.
Good. So Radha Vinod Prabhu, he knows this science. I know it. And he can look at your toes and he'll tell you if the toe next to your big toe, if it's a little longer than your big toe, it means that people will criticize you. And if your big toe is very fat and coming up, it means you're lusty. Or different things like that. If the two toes in a lady, her first two toes, there's a big space between them, it means she's not so close to her husband. And people who know this science, they look for these things. So there is some art of physiognomy. And the gopis could understand that because Uddhava, his physical appearance, even his arms were so long, he had lotus-like eyes, like Krishna. He had a varna, a complexion like that of Krishna. Also Arjun, Draupadi, they also had similar complexions to Krishna because they're so similar to Krishna. But not only that, the gopis, Jiva Goswami says, they saw that Uddhava was wearing the Padma Mala, or the lotus garland, that had been worn by Krishna. And they could understand this is worn by Krishna, not just by looking at it, but also by the fragrance. And also they could understand that Uddhava was wearing, he had the same dress as Krishna. He has this prasadam dress on. And his hairstyle, his earrings, his bracelets, all of those things were similar to Krishna's. So, but then Jiva Goswami says at the same time they had some eagerness, and they couldn't tolerate, they lost their discrimination, and they had some lack of reserve. And this lack of reserve, Jiva Goswami says in a very interesting way, because they thought Uddhava, he's taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, or because Uddhava had massaged Krishna's lotus feet, then Uddhava was a shelter like a pillow. Because Uddhava had massaged Krishna's feet, or he's taking shelter of Krishna's feet, he was a shelter like a pillow. So the devotee, he's like a pillow, a place where you can put your head and take shelter, and you can rest peacefully, because he's taking shelter himself of the lotus feet of Gurudev. So I want to begin this chapter, this Brahma Gita, this Brahma Ragit, it contains the 10 different types of Chitra Jalpa, or Radharani's Chitra Jalpa. You could translate it as prattling. In English is a word like that. It means mad talks, or surprising talks, which are symptomatic of the highest stage of divine love, of Mahabhav. And our acharyas speak like this, that in this chapter it's understood that there's a particular gopi speaking. And Snehaman, Pranaya Rag, Anurag Bhav, Ruda Mahabhav, Adi Ruda Mahabhav, Modanaki Mahabhav, Madanaki Mahabhav. And Srimati Radharani, she possesses alone that Madanaki Mahabhav. Therefore she's known as Madanaki Mahabhava Mayi. Raghava Pandit Prabhu is watching right now. He says, Pranam Sajagatma Prabhu. Welcome, Raghavaji. So, this chapter indicates that Srimati Radharani who's speaking to this bumblebee. This Brahma Ragit is described by some Vaishnavas as being the most supremely relishable chapter in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And Rupa Goswami, because this chapter speaks about Dura Prabhas. There's different types of separation. Rupa Goswami, if I can remember properly, in his Ujjvala Mani, he says that 4 different types of separation. The first is before they've met Krishna, they're feeling some separation. Purvaraga. Purvaragas tatamana, prema vachitya etyapi, prabhasas Vipralambas Chaturvida. Vipralambas Chaturvida, there's 4 different types of separation, beginning with Purvarag. And then there's Man. Purvarag means before Radha and Krishna meet. Man is when the lover has some sulkiness. Srimati Radharani becomes angry with Krishna because he's done some bad thing. Prema Vaichitya, a very astonishing kind of separation when there actually is union there. Guru Maharaj gives an example, just like when Krishna's on the chariot of Uddhava, of Akrura, and Akrura is taking him away from Vrindavan. There's union. The gopis are there with Krishna, but they're feeling separation at the same time. And the 4th type is Prabhas, and there's 2 types of Prabhas. There's Dura Prabhas and Sudura Prabhas. Dura Prabhas is when Krishna goes to Kamyavan or some forest during the day, and the gopis can't see Krishna for 4 or 5 hours or something, and it seems like such a long time for them. But they know Krishna's gone just a short time, and we're going to see him in a little while. But Dura Prabhas is also known as Mathura or Dwarka Prabhas. Is when Krishna is gone to Mathura Dwarka, and they don't know, are they going to see him again or not? And this Brahma Ragit, this section of the Bhagavatam, speaks about this Sudura Prabhas. This is such a relishable portion of the Bhagavatam. Rupa Goswami speaks about this in Lalita Madhav and Uddhava Sandesh and Hansadutta. It's a very, very wonderful discussion. Today I'd like to begin our discussion of this Brahma Ragit with some excerpts from this book, Mathura Meets Vrindavan, by Guru Maharaj. And we want to go to the place where Jagadatma last week was speaking about how Krishna crushed the pride of Uddhava. In the 16th chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, Dambo Darpo Bimanascha, Kroda Parusham Eva Cha Agyanam Cha Vijatascha Partha Sampadam Asram. He speaks about different demoniac natures and the first different demoniac qualities. And the first he mentions is Damba, or pride. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport that the demoniac persons, they want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. They're always arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. That's the nature of a demoniac person. In other words, they want to make a show, and it's really easy. You just go to Lloyd Bazaar And you can buy 2 or 3 commentaries in Ujjvala of Rupa Goswami, and you can quote that in class, and you can stump all the Swamis, because hardly any of them know that, right? And everybody will say, wow, sadhu, sadhu. They make a show of some education or some wealth. But the real desire, Prabhupada says, is to be worshipped by others, and they demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically according to their own desire, and they don't recognize any authority. These demoniac qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers, and as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani, he also speaks about this in chapter 4. He says, Krishnaika Sarnatai Sadhu Lakshana, that the principal symptom of a sadhu is Krishnaika Sarnatai, to take shelter of Krishna. But he says, Apanake sadhu bholiya parichai deoya dhambikataya, that to claim to be a sadhu, that's just damba, that's just pride, that's arrogance. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he further explains this in Harinam Chintamani. And we'll go ahead and sing a few of these verses. Krishnaika Sarana Matra Krishna Namagai Sadhu Name Parichitta Krishnera Kripai. He says that Krishnaika Sarana Matra Krishna Namagai. As soon as someone surrenders to Krishna, then what is the symptom of that? Krishna Namagai. You chant Krishna's names. And then something happens. People say, oh, that was such a nice kirtan. Oh, see, he's a big person. He's live streaming on Facebook or this or that. And sadhu name parichitta Krishna to kripai. Then you get some reputation as a sadhu, which comes because of Krishna's blessings. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that's okay, that's natural. Krishna Bhakta Vyatita Nahika Sadhu Ar Ami Sadhu Boile Ho Damba Avatar. This is a nice verse, isn't it? Krishna Bhakta Vyatita Nahika Sadhu Ar. There's nobody who is more qualified to be called a sadhu than a devotee of Krishna. You may be a Shaivite or a Shakta. You're something, we say you're a sadhu officially because you're living like a sadhu. But really, someone who's a Krishna Bhakta, really a Krishna Bhakta, that person's a sadhu. But if someone says, Ami sadhu boli, I'm a sadhu, then hoy damba avatar. They're just an incarnation of arrogance, of pride. So this pride is a very, very bad thing. Chanakya Pandit speaks about this also, that Indra, he's a great devotee. The Bhagavatam in the Charama Shloka, most important verse in the Bhagavatam, it says that Indra vyakalam lokam hridayanti yuge yuge. That Krishna comes again and again. Zeti chamsa kala pumsa verse. Krishna comes again and again. Indra vyakalam lokam hridayanti yuge yuge, to protect Indra. Because Indra is not just a small-time devotee. He's a great devotee. The Devas are all devotees. And Indra is Devaraj. He's the king of all the Devas. He's a great devotee. But Chanakya says, Swahasta gratita mala swahasta grista chandanam. Even Indra loses his glory if he wears a garland that he's made himself. If you make a garland so you can put on a garland so everybody knows, yes, he's a very important person. Or he makes some sandalwood paste to put on so everybody knows how great I am. Even Indra loses his glory if he does like that. Or svahasa likitam stotram sakrasyapi shriyam harit. If he writes some shlok to glorify himself, then he loses his good qualities. Parai ukta guno yastu nirguno puguni bhavet indro pi lagutam yati swayam prakyapitayar gunai. So even someone who doesn't have any good qualities, he becomes honorable if he's praised by other persons. But if a person, even if a person has many good qualities, if he starts praising himself, speaking about his own good qualities, that person becomes dishonorable. Indra pi lagutam yati. He becomes a lagu. He becomes very insignificant. Our Gurus used to sing this song quite often of Thakur Bhakti Vinod from Kalyana Kalpataru. Very nice song. Kripa koro Vaishnava Thakura. Kripa koro Vaishnava Thakura. Sambandha janiya bhajite bhajite abhimana haudura. He says that, oh my dear Vaishnava Thakur, please be merciful to me. If you're merciful to me, then sambandha janiya. Then I'll understand what is my connection, my relationship with Krishna. And then bhajite, then I can really worship Krishna. And then abhimana haudura. Then I'll be able to give up any pride. If the Vaishnavas are merciful to me. And Bhakti Vinod goes on to describe in the same song. Amito Vaishnava eburi hoile amani no hobo ami pratistasa asi hridoya dushibe hoibo nirayagami kripa koro Vaishnava Thakura kripa koro Vaishnava Thakura. Amito Vaishnava ebudi hoile amani nahobo ami. If I start thinking Amito Vaishnava, I'm a great Vaishnava, ebudi hoile, this mentality comes to me, then what happens? Amani nahobo ami. Then I can't give respect to other people. And then what happens? Pratistasa asi. This pratista, it comes as pratista asa, this desire for some fame and position, this asi, this, if I take this thing, then hridoya dushibe, it's going to pollute my heart. And what will be the result? Hoibo nirayagami. I think, yes, I'm a great devotee, I'm wearing tilak and kunti mala, I'm going back to Godhead, but if I behave like this, if I think like this, then hoibo nirayagami, I'll go to hell. So what should be our attitude? Tomara kinkora apane janibo guru abhimana chaji. Tomara uchista parajala renu sadanishko patibaji. Kripa koro Vaishnava Thakura. Kripa koro Vaishnava Thakura. The only way I want to consider myself is Tomara kinkora. Apane janibo. I'm the servant, the kinkara of the devotees. In the Mahabharata, Krishna, he tells Duryodhana, what is it? There's a very nice verse. It's not coming to my mind. He says that someone who is the enemy of my devotee, yes, what is it? Yes, too. Someone is the enemy of my devotee, they're my enemy. And if someone's a devotee of my devotee, they're my real devotee. So there's no getting around it. If we want to be a devotee of Krishna, we have to become a devotee of Krishna's devotees. And Guru Abhimana Chaji, we have to give up the attitude that I'm a guru. In one article, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says that it's required to continue this Gaudiya Vaishnava Dhara this line, it's required that someone accept the position of guru and accept disciples. That's needed. He says, but there's a problem. As soon as you become a guru, you're no longer a Vaishnav. If you start thinking, I'm a guru, then you're no longer a Vaishnav. Guru abhimana tyaji. He says, I give up, I kick out this attitude that I'm guru. And tomara uchishta padajala renu sada niskapati bhaji. Sada niskapati bhaji. I'm always going to worship without any duplicity, with sincerity. I'm going to worship sadhu guru. And how? Tomara uchishta padajala renu. I'm going to take the remnants of their food. I'm going to take the dust from their feet. I'm going to take the water that's washed their feet. And this is our only real qualification. Otherwise, in another song, Thakur Bhaktivinoda sings in Saranagati. I like the song very much. He sings it. Garita chare rohi lama moji nakori sadhu sangha. Loi sadhu besha ani upadeshi ebodo mayara randa. He says, Gari to achare roi lama moji. This is my behavior. Gari to achar. I'm very bad. Nakorino sadhu sangha. I never really did sadhu sangha. I just, whenever someone pulled out a camera around Guru Maharaj, then very quick, I got next to Gurudev. So I could get in the picture. Right? But really, I never did sadhu sangha. I just want to have my picture taken. But here I am, online, right? Loi sadhu vesh, dressed up like a sadhu. Ani upadesh, giving some instructions to everybody. Ebodo mayara ranga. This is Maya's big joke. So we should understand a very, very dangerous thing, this pride. In Raghunath Das Goswami's Govardhan Basa Prarthana Dasakam, he speaks about some of the intrinsic qualities of Giriraj Govardhan. And in his first verse, he speaks about one of the principles of worship of Giriraj and what it is that Giriraj does. And he establishes a position of Giriraj. He says, Nijapati Bhuja Dandach Chatchambhavam Prapadya. First thing he says, Nijapati. He says, your pati. Who's your pati? Nija. Nija means your. Nijapati. Your pati is Krishna. And Bhuja Dandach Chatchambhavam Prapadya. You became an umbrella in the hand of your pati. That means that Giriraj is a devotee. It means there's some distinction between Giriraj and Krishna. In the first verse, he establishes this. And then in the next line, he establishes one of the principal purposes of Giriraj Govardhan in Govardhan Dharana Leela. Pratihata Mada Drishta Danda Devendra Garba. That this Devendra, this Indra, who's the chief of all the different devas, his garba, his pride. Pratihata means to crush it. And he gives 3 different synonyms for damba. Garba is also a word for, gives, let me see, 1, 2, 3 different synonyms for pride. The first is mada. Mada means arrogance in Sanskrit. Mada means pride. It means sex desire. It means intoxication. If you become intoxicated with your position, this is what happened to Indra. And he became angry. What are they worshipping? They're not worshipping me. He sent some spies to Braj. And the spies came back and they said, Maharaj, we don't know how to tell you this, but they're worshipping a pile of rocks instead of you. They're worshipping a hill. They're worshipping Govardhan. So I became so mada, so arrogant. And drishta. Drishta means when someone becomes audacious, you go and you dare to challenge a superior person. That's drishta. There's many drishta people today who are very, very daring and confident. It means to be very audacious, to be very bold, drishta. And udanda means that you have a stick. Literally, udanda, you're holding a stick in your hand, or it means that you're prominent. So, pratihata madadristo danda devendra garba, Raghunath Das Goswami says that this is one of the purposes of Giriraj, that he smashes. Pratihata means to smash and destroy the pride of Indra. In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, he describes three things which destroy pride. Dukkha trasa aparadadyar anorjitam tadinata. Dukkha trasa aparadadyar. Dukkha, when you become unhappy. When you become very, very happy and everything's very good and you're very strong and powerful, then you become proud. But then you get the coronavirus or something and you can't even walk and you become very, very weak and very skinny, you almost die. Then that destroys your pride and you may become humble. Tras means out of fear. You become very proud because you're powerful, but then you see someone who's even bigger than you. It's coming, and you're afraid he's going to beat me up. Then that helps you to become humble. And aparada jayar, when you have some sense that I've committed some aparad. Those things, anorjitam to dinata. Those things, they give rise to dainya or dinata, to humility. So Krishna, when he's very kind to his devotee, he crushes their pride. So I wanted to look a little bit today to the 13th chapter of this Mathura Meets Vrindavan, from some talks that our Gurumars gave. And he tells a very wonderful story there, which speaks about Uddhava and establishes some of the purposes why it was that Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan. Uddhava, Gurumar's comments there, is Brihaspati Sishya. He's a disciple of Brihaspati. And Uddhava is a very, very dear devotee of Krishna, in the same way that Arjuna also is. Krishna in the Gita, again and again, he glorifies Arjuna as a great devotee. He says, Bhakta me, you're my dear devotee, Priyosi me, Sakasi me, you're my dear friend, and because of that, I'm speaking this knowledge to you. So on the battle of Kurukshetra, I'm just describing Guru Maharaj's katha from Mathura Meets Vrindavan in my own words. I like that better than just plainly reading something, although we'll read a few things also. In that battle, Krishna became Arjuna's chariot driver. Krishna, in the first chapter of the Gita, Arjuna, he says, Ratam stapaya me chuta, hey achuta, chala, take the chariot, you do like this. Now, we may not think that to be a chariot driver is such a humble thing, especially in the West. In India, people, if you're a driver for someone, that's like, you're nothing, right? That's a very humble thing. I can understand that. But to help us in the West to understand more how it is that a driver, and especially a chariot driver, has a very humble position, a question may arise. How is it that the warrior who's in a chariot, how is it that he gives instructions to the chariot driver? Because it's during a war. And there's so many screaming and elephants making big noises and so many things. You can't just say, go right, go left. He's not going to hear you. So there's a system. And the system is that the chariot driver, he has the reins, he's holding the horses with these ropes, and he's seated. And the warrior is also seated, generally. And he's seated above the chariot driver, and he puts his feet on the shoulders of the chariot driver. And when he wants to go right, he pushes with his right foot. And when he wants to go left, he pushes with the left foot. When he wants to stop, he pushes with both feet. He has his feet on the shoulders of the driver. It's a very humble position. And Arjuna had that. He had Krishna as a driver. He was putting his feet on Krishna's shoulders and guiding him in this way. So Arjuna was thinking, I'm pretty important person. And moreover, the Pandavas, they achieved victory in the war, and Yudhishthira became Raja Adiraj, the emperor of the whole world. So the Pandavas, and especially Arjuna, was very, very blissful. Now Arjuna, Guru Maharaj says, he'd heard Bhagavad Gita directly from the lips of Krishna. And so he was thinking that I have this Gita Gyan. Krishna spoke directly to me. I know I'm a very special person. I'm very unique and different from everybody else because I personally heard from Krishna. Sometimes a disciple thinks like that. I'm very special because I directly heard from Gurudev. And Amar Guru Jagat Guru. And who did you take initiation from? Oh, I'm sorry. Better luck next time. They think like that. But what is the value of being a bad son of a good father? And many of us in the West, they don't know. In India, you do know, I think. Gandhi had a son. What was Gandhi's son? His name?
I don't know. Mahatma Gandhi's son.
He had one son. But what is in Gandhi, everyone calls him Mahatma, the great personality. But what was the value of Gandhi's son? He became a drunkard, a womanizer. He became a Muslim. And he left his body with some sexual disease. So what's the value of being the bad son of a good father? Prabhupada in one place, he says that putra and mutra, two things come from the genitals of the father. The semen, but also urine. So are we actually a real follower, a real disciple? So sometimes some pride comes, and don't you know who I am? I'm the disciple of a great guru. But what's the value of that? In Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami, he says Advaitam cha parityagya, that one should, this is a qualification of a disciple, Advaitam cha parityagya, you should give up parityagya, the attitude that I'm non-different from my Gurudev. In other words, that I should be given respect just because I'm a disciple of Gaur Govinda Maharaj or Srila Prabhupada or this or that. What's the value of being the son of Gandhi if you're not a good son? Rather, Gopayat Guru Matmana. Adi Bhakti Vilas says you should hide your guru. Don't speak about your relationship because it may bring some embarrassment to Gurudev. Because who am I? Of course, it doesn't mean we deny Gurudev and we want to glorify and appreciate the things we've gotten from Gurudev. But those things don't belong to us. They're not ours. We're just repeating those things. So Arjun had this pride. And he was thinking that I'm a great Gyani. I know so much because I heard this Gita from Krishna's lips personally. So one day they were going together on the bank of the Jamuna through some forests on a chariot. And Krishna could see that Arjun's developed some pride. So he wanted to smash that. Nija Janasmaya Dvamsana Kari. This is Krishna's nature. If he sees that his dear devotee has some pride, he has to crush it. So as they were going along, Guru Maharaj tells this story, they saw a jambuka. Jambuka means a jackal. I'm pronouncing correctly? Jambuka? They saw this jackal moving around, and there was one dead body there. And the jambuka was going around, walking around the dead body and smelling it. But he wasn't eating it. And Arjun, when he saw that, because Arjun is very proud, he just laughed and said, this jambuka, he has no knowledge. He's a murkha. He's a fool. This is his food, but he's not eating and he's just going around and smelling it. And then Krishna, he stopped the chariot. And he said, hey, jambuka, come here. And the jambuka came over and offered obeisances to Krishna. And folded he didn't have hands, but his little feet, he put like this. And then Krishna said, hey, jambuka, what are you doing? This dead body, this human being, that's your food, but you're not eating it. You're just moving around it and smelling it, And that jambuka said, my Lord, you know everything, you're sarvagya. Although this human, this dead body is my food, but still I have some discrimination. And without consideration, I won't eat. And Krishna said, oh, you have some consideration? Yes. And Krishna said, what is your discrimination? There's a nice picture we developed of this. You can see. This is Pattachitra. This is Krishna and Arjun in the chariot, and you can see the jambuka, or the jackal in front. So he asked that jambuka, here's the jambuka again, next to the dead body. He asked that jackal, he said, what is your discrimination? And the jambuka said, well, he said, I'm just a jackal. The only thing I can do is I can eat. But I have this nose, and I can tell By smelling someone's legs, I can understand if they ever went to Jagannath Puri or Vrindavan or Mayapur by walking. By smelling their hands, I can understand if the person ever offered puja to the Lord. By smelling their eyes, I can understand if they've ever seen a sadhu or deity in the temple. By smelling his head, I can understand if he's ever bowed down to sadhu Vaishnav or deity or not. By smelling his ears, I can understand if he's ever heard Krishna Katha during his lifetime or not. And by smelling all these things, I can understand. But if he's not done any of these things, I won't eat such impure food. I won't touch it. I'll only eat that section, if that part of his body, if he's done some devotional act with that. And he said, my Lord, we're pashu, we're beasts, we have no knowledge. We can't do any subha karma, dharma, or anything. But our only piety can come by eating. And Krishna, when he heard that, he said, oh Jambuka, all glories to you, you're my devotee. And when Arjuna heard this, Arjuna's pride became crushed. And he thought, oh, this Jambuka, he's a great Jnani. I can't do this. I can't tell if someone's seen the deity by smelling their eyes or smelling their hand if they've done some worship or not. And so in this way, Krishna crushed the pride of Arjuna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his book Bhakti Lok, he speaks about this pride and what is the result of pride. When, as Prabhupada was speaking in the purport, this Dambo Darpo Bhimanascha verse in the 16th chapter of the Gita, about the nature of pride, he says that such proud persons, they want to collect some information, some knowledge, to advertise themselves as very knowledgeable. What happens when you do that? Just like what happens if someone lifts weights and they become very strong. If you lift weights and you become strong, you have to find a woman to impress her, right? Or you have to go and fight with someone to show your strength. Otherwise, what's the value of your strength? Similarly, if someone is just making a show of being a devotee, and their show consists of information they've collected, then naturally, if that's their motivation, then what will happen is they're going to have to try to exercise that. And so Bhaktivinoda speaks about this. He says, debate arises from a desire for conquest. It's extremely abominable. This is what happens when you collect all this information and you're not doing it as service for Guru. You're not doing it to serve the Vaishnavas and to try to inspire them. You're just collecting some information to try to impress other people. Then naturally you're going to have to go and do some debate. Just like Kartabirya Arjuna. He had to go and fight. He has 1,000 arms. He's so very powerful. Banasura was so very, very powerful. And Narad Muni gave him a blessing. Yes, I bless you. You'll find someone you can fight with. And he'll defeat you. And he met finally with Krishna, and Krishna defeated him. So Bhaktivinoda says debate arises only from a desire for conquest. It's extremely abominable. But sometimes some Vaishnavas, they think that debate means being a Vaishnava. And the more that you can debate, the better you are. But the Mahabharata says Tarka apratishta. That this tarka, this argument, it doesn't mean anything. There's a story I heard once in West Bengal that once there was one big Digvijay Pandit, one scholar who was very powerful, and he'd come to West Bengal to challenge people to debate. And so he came to a small village, and in that village, the people there were very simple. They weren't very educated. They didn't know Sanskrit. They only knew Bengali. And he challenged the Pandit there. And so there's one Pandit, he knew Sanskrit. Now, in Vedic debate, whoever begins first, they're at a disadvantage. It's hard for them because then it gives the other person an advantage. So each one of them, acting like they were humble, was offering to the other one, you should go first. And they were speaking in Sanskrit. You should go first. No, you should go first. No, I insist. You're senior, you should go first. And the common people in the village couldn't understand what they were saying. They were just watching back and forth like this. And finally, one of the Digvijay Pandit, he asked the other fellow, he said, do you know how to say the words in Bengali, I don't know, And the other one said, yes, huh? Ami Jani na? And when he said the words, Ami Jani na, then all the people started cheering, yes, yes.
I don't know Sanskrit.
he won the debate, and they picked up the other fellow and carried him on their shoulders. So Tarka Apratishta. What does the debate mean? When that big Digvijay Pandit came to Vrindavan and challenged Rupa and Sanatan, they said, yes, you're a very big person. We'll sign your Vijay Patra, your declaration, you won. And then go away, leave us alone. We're trying to do bhajan. A Vaishnav doesn't want to debate. Of course, Jiva Goswami couldn't tolerate, and that's another thing. But Bhaktivinoda says, debate arises only from a desire for conquest. It's extremely abominable. Fault-finding arises only from imposing one's own bad habits on others. So this is what happened with Arjun. Arjun has this fault of pride. He's actually a murka. He's a fool, because a proud person is a fool. But he's thinking the Jambuka, the jackal, is a fool. But he's a real fool. He's projecting his own fault. Atmavan manate jagat. He's projecting his fault onto someone else. Bhaktivinoda says fault finding arises only from imposing one's own bad habits on others. He says that useless arguments arise from envy or pride, aversion or attachment to sense gratification, foolishness or self-pride. Quarrelsome persons become intoxicated by useless arguments. While discussing topics of the Lord and his devotees, a practicing devotee should always be careful to avoid useless arguments. So going back again to Mathura Meets Vrindavan, Guru Maharaj spoke this story about Arjun, and then he went on to say that similarly in the Bhagavatam you'll find that Uddhava is a very dear devotee of Krishna. In Krishna, he speaks about this in the 14th chapter of the 11th canto. He says, Natata me priyatama atma yonir nishankara nacha sankarshano nashriya navatmacha yata bhavan. That my dear Uddhava, Natata me priyatama, nobody's as dear to me as you. Atma yonir, Lord Brahma, who was born from me, he's not so dear to me. Nashankara, Lord Shiva, is not so dear to me. Sankarshan, my brother Balaram, is not so dear to me. Nashri, Lakshmi Devi herself, Naivatma, my own soul, myself, is not as dear to me, Yata Bhavan, as you are. So Uddhava is a great devotee. And Guru Maharaj says that Uddhava is Brihaspati Sishya. He's a disciple of Brihaspati. He's also a very dear friend of Krishna. He looks just like Krishna. He has the same complexion, the same stature, same height. Everything looks the same. But Uddhava doesn't have this prem. He doesn't have this braj prem. He has some love. We spoke something about that in our previous session, and how Jiva Goswami, in his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he describes one of the names of Uddhava as Pavana Vyadi, that he has this wind disease because he's overcome with love from childhood. So when Guru Maharaj says that Uddhava doesn't have prem, it doesn't mean he doesn't have love, but it means he doesn't have this braj prem. And Uddhava has this pride. So understanding that, he sent Uddhava to Braj Bhumi to see the love of the gopis and get his pride crushed. So I want to stop in just a moment, but I want to conclude with a final comment. These first two verses of the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, speak about the appearance of Uddhava. This is the topic in front of us today. Now, that appearance, there's two aspects to it. One aspect is the vision of the gopis. And they see that, oh, look, this fellow, he's wearing Krishna's prasad cloth. He has Krishna's prasadam garland. He has eyes like Krishna, and he has long arms like Krishna. He has Krishna's same physical features. And therefore the gopis felt confident. And whereas normally the gopis would be very, very shy, when they saw Uddhava, it looks like Krishna, they went running to him. They gave up their shyness. So this is one aspect of the appearance of Uddhava. And similarly, if we dress like a Vaishnav, that's helpful. if we see that someone's dressed like a devotee, we feel some comfort. I know when I go to Vrindavan, I feel so happy because everyone's wearing tilak, and even more than Jagannath Puri. It's a very, very nice thing. And if you go to Delhi or something, you feel sad. You don't see hardly any. But if you see someone walking down the street with a dhoti on and tilak and a japa mala, you feel happy. You feel like, I can trust this person just by their appearance. But there's another aspect of this appearance of Uddhava, which we've also touched on, and that is that appearance itself can be a kind of pride. That we can dress up like a devotee, and many times people, they dress like devotees, but they're not devotees. I oftentimes tell this story that during the Vietnam War, true story, many young people in America were avoiding going to war. The army, the country was drafting people. They were forcing the young people to go to war. And many people were joining the Hare Krishna movement. They're saying, no, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a peaceful person, I can't go to war. And so the FBI became suspicious, and they sent a person to the temple in Honolulu, Hawaii, to a Sunday feast program to find out what's the deal with these Hare Krishna people. And so he went to the temple program, and he kind of danced in the kirtan and kind of chanted and sat down to take prasadam, and a devotee sat next to him, and the devotee wanted to preach to him because he sees a new person, and he finds this person's very interested, or it seems like. And he says, I really like this, and how can I join? How can I become a Hare Krishna devotee? And they said, well, no problem. We'll shave your head. Just move into the temple. And so they shaved his head, and they gave him a dhoti and tilak, and he moved in the temple. And he was going to Mangal Artik every day and chanting 16 rounds and like that. So he's a devotee, right? He's dressed like a devotee, but he's not a devotee. He's a spy. And he stayed there for a week or whatever, and then one time in the middle of the night he snuck out to the window, and he went back to make his report to the FBI. And he told in his report, these people are crazy. He said, it's worse than the army. In the army, you don't have to get up until 5 o'clock. But in the Hare Krishna movement, they make you get up at 4 o'clock. In the army, you can take a hot shower. But these people make you take a cold shower. You can't watch television. You can't drink beer. You can't smoke cigarettes. You can't have a girlfriend. It's worse than the army. These people are crazy. That was his conclusion. Now, from an external perspective, that person looked like a devotee. And there's some benefit in dressing like a devotee. We often comment in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, there's some description, glorification of Putana, and how Putana got liberation. Our acharyas, Vishwanath Jiva, Sanatana Goswami, Sridhar Swami, all the different commentators explain that why is it that Putana got liberation and got seva, nitya seva, not just mukti, but she got nitya seva because she was dressed like a devotee. Baba. But then we hear that Aghasura and Bakasura, they got kaivalya mukti. Why did they get kaivalya mukti? That's the first question. Our acharyas comment on that because their sister dressed like a devotee. And because she dressed like a devotee, they got kaivalya mukti. But then the next question comes, why did they only get kaivalya mukti and not nitya seva like Putana? And the answer is given because they didn't dress like a devotee. Now that doesn't mean that someone has to dress like a devotee to get liberation or to get Krishna prem. It's not dependent on those things. But that dress is udipana. It reminds us of the devotees. And you get some ashirvad, you get some blessing from Srila Prabhupada persons. And we naturally trust that person. But at the same time, we should also understand there's a kind of pride that can come with that too. That, I'm a big devotee. I'm dressed in such a nice silk cloth and like this and this. To advertise myself. I'm wearing saffron. I have a danda. I'm this and this. But what does that mean? The gopis of Vrindavan, they weren't dressing up like big devotees. They're just housewives. But they're the greatest devotees. Now Uddhava, he looks just like Krishna. He's all dressed up like Krishna. He has a garland on. He looks really, really good. But he has this pride. So this dress can mean two different things. This is a purport from this discussion today. I want to stop there and thank all the devotees. Sri Thakur Prabhu, he comments, Jai Nitai says, to hell with Tarka and arguing. And Brinda Sundari, welcome here. And Triyuga Prabhu from Hungary. Brinda Sundari is from Denver, Colorado. And Sanjay Prabhu, Hare Krishna. And Raghava Pandit's there in Connecticut. Radhika Sharma is there. And a few other ways. If anybody has any reflections, you want to tell us what you're walking away with, any impressions you had today, you can write that online. Otherwise, I'm going to turn to the devotees here in the room if anybody has any reflections. Prabhuji has something. Let me turn this mic around so you have to still speak louder.
Something you explained that
Prabhu speaking.
Guru, you told Mat Guru Jagat Guru.
Amar Guru Jagat Guru, yeah.
That one devotee, one disciple always thinking he will glorify his guru. If he will not tell his guru's name, you saying no, you can hide it. So how he can glorify his guru?
So if we should glorify Guru, that's a fact. That's the job, that's the business of a disciple, to glorify their guru. But what does it mean to glorify Guru? There's a type of offense called atistuti ninda. Stuti we want to do, we want to glorify. But atistuti is a kind of ninda. And Guru Maharaj used to quote a verse from the Gopal Champu of Jiva Goswami that describes 4 different arrows in the heart. And one of them is a disciple who may make a big show of worshipping Guru, but he's not taking shelter of the holy name. That just causes pain to the heart of Guru. So what does it really mean? We should ask that question. The first thing we want to glorify Guru, but we should know, what does it really mean to glorify Guru? I'll give you an example which you won't like. It's a very bad example. You're going to be angry with me. I'm sorry. But let's say we have a festival for Purandaracharya Prabhu, and we put big 8-foot high pictures of Purandaracharya all over the ashram. And we do kirtan, we invite all the devotees, and we do kirtan, we sing Jai Purandaracharya Prabhu, Purandaracharya Prabhu, and we do like that. How will you feel? You're going to be like, oh my God, what are you doing? You idiots, you stupid, stop it, right? But on the other hand, if we have a festival and we do Krishna Kirtan, and we thank you, we say, Purandara Prabhu, you've given us so much inspiration to chant the holy names. By your example, by your teachings, we're inspired to chant. Thank you. How do you feel then? Then you feel very, very happy. So Sadhu Guru is not just happy when the disciple runs around singing Amar Guru Jagat Guru, Amar Guru Jagat Guru. But he's happy when the disciple repeats his teachings. He's happy when the disciple teaches by his example. I often quote the Christian saint, Saint Francis of Assisi, who Prabhupada appreciated. Prabhupada said he's a sadhu. And he was a vegetarian, Francis. And once he told some of his followers, his disciples, you should go and preach. And he said, and if necessary, you can say something. You should preach, and if you need to, you can speak. In other words, preaching is not necessarily speaking. Really, preaching means by your behavior. And that's how we glorify Gurudev in the best way. And Gopayad Gurum Atmana doesn't mean we deny our Guru, but Gopayad Gurum Atmana means that I don't advertise my close relationship with Gurudev. I don't speak about the intimate things he's told me, because if I do that, then I'll trade away those intimate instructions. I'll trade it in for pride and position. And yes, people will clap their hands and they'll say, yes, yes, he's a very dear disciple. He has so many stories, and see, he's posted so many pictures of himself with his guru. That's there. Sometimes we may do that out of some remembrance or something, but we should be careful. If we advertise ourselves as being close with Guru, then some problem may come. And therefore, Sanatana Goswami says, Advaitam cha parityagyat. that the attitude of a disciple, he should give up the attitude that I'm non-different from Gurudev. Is that helpful, something, Purandar Prabhu?
Say again this word, please.
Huh?
Say again this word, please.
This phrase, Advaitam cha parityagyat. Advaitam cha, thinking that Advaita, I'm non-different from Gurudev. Parityagyat, give that up. Don't think like that. There's always a difference between Gurudev and myself. I'm always a servant of Gurudev. And if I go and I'm doing all bad things, and I start telling everybody, yes, I'm the disciple of such and such Mahatma, is that service to Guru? Then people will criticize Gurudev. They'll say, why he's initiating all these crazy people, the nonsense people. It should be something we keep close to our heart. Not that we deny Gurudev, but we show our Gurudev by speaking his teachings. Okay? Krishna Kun, you have any reflection you want to share? I'm sorry. Uh-huh. And anybody else, check it out, Prabhu? Any reflection you want to share? If you want some, let me bring the mic over there for you.
One devotee said something to me one time, and I was puzzled. They asked me who I was, and I introduced myself as a very simple devotee, and I tried to be humble and spoke nicely of other devotees, that I'm nothing in comparison with the other devotees. I tried to present myself like that, and the devotee told me that you shouldn't do like that. You shouldn't present yourself like that. You should present yourself as being the disciple of your spiritual master, and you should have some pride that that I am the disciple of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and you should not speak to demean your spiritual master like that. So I was a little puzzled. Because I was thinking that I didn't want to present myself like that. I personally felt that, I'm not a very good disciple, and others are much superior to me. So I presented myself in that way. But that person who didn't know me, he's just getting to know me for the first time, he said, you shouldn't do like that. So I was puzzled because I was thinking that that's what I should do. I should present myself that I only aspire to be a disciple of my spiritual master, But he was saying that doesn't glorify your spiritual master. Like that. So I was a bit puzzled. And so I never replied, I never said anything. I just listened to it. This was many, many years ago, but I remember it because at the time I was puzzled. Can you understand? I just didn't understand it. Like I'd always thought that I should be, I should present myself as lower than straw in the street. I should present myself. But this devotee said, no, you shouldn't present yourself like that. You should present yourself as being really something to glorify your spiritual master. And this puzzled me.
So, should I make a comment about that?
Yeah, because I was confused. I'm still, some people may say like that, but to me, that's a bit arrogant.
In one sense, that's the purpose of sannyas. That's the purpose of an institution. We have a hierarchy of people, and we give respect because he's a temple president, he's a GBC, he's a sannyasi. And because a lot of people won't give respect unless that sannyas is there. That's one of the reasons why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, because people weren't giving him proper respect. That was his external reason. So if I take sannyas, then they'll give respect to me. So that's required sometimes, but not always. Two stories come to my mind, two examples. Srila Prabhupada once was in Gorakhpur, and a young man came to see him, and he'd been told that you should go to Bhaktivedanta Swami to hear about Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he went to see Prabhupada, but he was disappointed that Prabhupada wasn't there. And all the devotees who were with him were gone. They'd gone for a walk or something. There was just one old Indian man sitting in the room. And so he went into the room, wearing a gamsha, and he went in and he started speaking with that old man and told him, I'm here, I want to learn about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the old man told him, why do you want to learn about him? Because he's God. No, he's not, that's nonsense. And the young man became angry and started arguing with the old man. And then suddenly a young Western devotee came in the room and offered obeisances to that old man with the gamsha on. And all of a sudden he realized, it's Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada didn't advertise himself. Once there was one young man who later became my first temple president, Vatsal Prabhu, he was a hippie in San Francisco, and he was going to take prasadam in the temple on a regular basis. And one day, one of the devotees asked him, would you like to do some service? And he said, yeah, that sounds really cool. I'd like to do service. So they said, they pointed to some guy who was really dirty. He had old jeans on, he had dirt all over him. He said, you can go help him. And so he went over and he said, can I help you? He said, yeah, I'm the garbage man. I take out the garbage. And he spent the whole day, they had a huge amount of garbage because they're feeding so many people, filling it in the big truck and going to the dump. And at the end of the day, he decided, I have to become a devotee, because this garbage man is the happiest person I've ever met in my life. And if the garbage man is he's a devotee, if the garbage man is so happy, I want to become a devotee. But he didn't know who that garbage man was. He was actually the temple president. And his name was Jayananda. So he wasn't advertising himself. But sometimes we may advertise ourselves, but the kind of respect we'll get will be cheap. It's necessary for some low-class people, just like some low-class people, you have to take a stick and hit them like an animal. On its own, it won't wander away. It'll behave properly. So will know if I have to beat it with a stick, if I have to demand respect for their own benefit, or if I have to command respect. And of the two, better to command respect. Let me read a couple of things online. Brinda Sundari has commented, regarding useless argument and defeat, I'm thinking of when Srila Prabhupada asked Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about India's freedom from British rule in a sort of challenging yet sincere inquiry. He said he was defeated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he was pleased by that. Nice comment, thank you. And Triyuga Prabhu is also here. And Raghava Pandit's still here. I'm surprised you're still here, my dear brother. Purandar Acharya Prabhu is here in the room with us, and also Gopinath Acharya, our Indian Gopinath Acharya godbrother. Triyuga Prabhu from Budapest is here, and he says, thank you. Very interesting topic. Personally, I very much like the story about Arjuna and the Jambuka. The Jambuka is a great soul. By smell, he can tell who's a Vaishnava. We don't know that. Sometimes we hear what are the symptoms of being humble, and we start to imitate because we want to be recognized as a humble Vaishnava. How do we avoid that? That's a fact. It's really good. One sannyasi who I know, who later fell down and went away, it may have something to do with his attitude I'm about to mention, but he used to make fun of that kind of attitude, and he would say that, oh Prabhuji, please accept my offenses and excuse me for my obeisances. He's making fun because very often we say the opposite. We say, please accept my obeisances and excuse me for my offenses, but we say it in maybe a mechanical way. So just to tease the devotees, he turned it around. But where is he today? He's no longer present in our movement. So sometimes we act like we're humble. So then what does it really mean to be humble? Raghunath Das Goswami, in his Manasiksha, he speaks about what is the fault of pride and how to develop real humility. Pratista sadrista. Again, that word drista. Drista means impudent. This pride is there. Pratista, this pratista asa, this desire for position, is like swapacha ramani. It's like a very low-caste, outcast woman who eats dogs, who's Ramani me hridinated, who's dancing in my heart in a very audacious way. Just like a very low-class woman. Pratista sadrista sapacha ramani me hridina tet katam sadhu prema spisiti sucha etan anumana. How can that very wonderful prema, here the word sadhu means something very good. How can that sadhu prema spisiti, how can it even touch my heart? What can I do? Sadatvam sevasva prabhudahita samanta matulam. You have to serve the Vaishnavas. You have to serve an advanced Vaishnava. And that advanced Vaishnava, if you please him, what will he do? Bah! He'll give you a good slap. He'll beat you. And in that way we'll develop real humility. Otherwise, if we on this nice humble show, yes, I'm very fallen Prabhu, and then everybody loves to say, Madhavananda, he's such a humble devotee, and I'm very happy that everybody's glorifying me. I'm so advanced. It worked. Krishna Kun has a comment. Can you?
No, just do you remember that quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that if it's necessary to become proud for a
Yeah, there's a statement like that where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says that if it's necessary to become proud for the service of my Guru, and our Guru Maharaj says a similar thing, then I'll become so proud. I'll smash any nonsense argument. And he'll do this for preaching,
yes,
out of service for Guru.
Guru.
We may do that. Gora Prabhu, in Australia, there's two Goras, I always get confused, Prabhupada's disciple and our New Zealand Gora. He says there's such a fine line between glorification of Guru and self-glorification. We tend to use everything and anything to make ourselves look good. We have to be careful. We want to glorify our Gurudev. We want to remember our Gurudev. My Guru Maharaj used to always wear a badge of Prabhupada on his bead bag to appreciate Prabhupada and remember him. But sometimes devotees may wear a badge of their Guru so that everybody knows who they're a disciple of. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one article, he calls that Guru Giri. You're doing a business of advertising who my Gurudev is. And that's a very detrimental thing. Thank you, Krishna. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he comments that if to follow my spiritual master, if it means that I must become proud, or must become an animal, or go to hell forever, I will never hesitate. I'll never follow anyone other than my spiritual master. I'll not follow anyone other than my spiritual. What does that mean? That doesn't mean that we don't take advice from someone, that we don't take instructions even. But if we hear that advice and we feel like this is coming from my Gurudev, Gurudev is speaking to me through Prananda-acharya Prabhu or through Jagadatma, then we should accept that. But someone else may come and they may say, don't you know who I am? As Gurudev would say, I'm the GBC, I'm a Guru, I'm a Prabhupada disciple, sannyasi, and you should listen to me. If I don't hear Gurudev's voice, then I bow my head, I say thank you very much, but I don't accept that. Ananda Gopal Prabhu, nice to see you here from North Carolina. He says, it strikes me that Sri Guru doesn't intervene in our material circumstances precisely so that Maya may smash some sense into us. That's a very beautiful comment. Yes, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes I remember one godbrother who came to Guru Maharaj and he said, Guru Maharaj, I've been a brahmachari for a long time, but I want to get married. And there's this girl I want to marry. Guru Maharaj said, yes, very good. This is Krishna's arrangement. You should get married to her. Very, very good. And then Guru Maharaj later on, and she certainly did. She made that devotee cry like anything. But at one point, Guru Maharaj said, yes, this is Krishna's arrangement. Yes, it's Krishna's arrangement to smash your pride. It's necessary, and we accept that. This is a medicine from Gurudev. I should accept that medicine from Gurudev. That's good. But it doesn't just mean that every single thing that Gurudev tells me, because I want to do this thing. Once I went to Guru Maharaj had told me, one of the first instructions that he gave to me when I came to him was that he told me that I want you to come to Bhubaneswar and install the deities of Radha Gopinath. And I was just a brand new disciple. I'd only known Guru Maharaj for actually a few weeks. I'd never been to Bhubaneswar. I only knew a few godbrothers in America. I was a very new devotee. Twist my hands and do some stuff like that. And Guru Maharaj used me in America for that, even for some deity installation, Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu's deities. Guru Maharaj had me do the Homa for that. But when Guru Maharaj told me that, I said, Guru Maharaj, I'm a new person. I don't know Sanskrit. I don't know Odia or Bengali. I barely know English. How can I do it? No, I'll empower you. He said, you come. So I always felt I felt that I was lacking in qualification. So once I had an idea, I thought Guru Maharaj is going to Africa, and he'll be gone for a month. During the time while he's gone, I'm thinking I'll go to South India, and I'll study puja under some ISKCON devotees who know very expert with puja. I'll study under them so that I can do my service better. So I went into Guru Maharaj's hut. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, what is it? And I said, Guru Maharaj, you told me to do this thing. I don't feel qualified. I have this idea that I'll go and study so I can do this service. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, very good. You do like that. And I walked out of the hut feeling very happy. I thought, yes, Guru Maharaj told me, and then I stopped. And I thought, oh, did Guru Maharaj tell me this? Or did he tell, because he wanted this? Or is this because I wanted this? And now how can I find out? If I go back and if he cheated me and told me just what I wanted to hear, maybe he'll say it again. So I thought, I went back in and I offered obeisances, and Guru Maharaj said, why are you back again? I said, Guru Maharaj, I thought about it and I can't go to South India. He said, why not? Huh? I said, because I don't think it's what you want. And I just want to do what you want. And Guru Maharaj looked at me with a very piercing look, like looking right through me. And he said, then better you stay here. And I understood something. So Guru Maharaj used to say, mercy and cheating. Both of them ultimately are kripa. They're both mercy. But the cheating means that you want something. You want to get married. You want to go to South India and study puja. And it's not really Gurudev's desire. So then he tells you, yes, you do that because that's what you want to hear. And you're going to suffer because of that. But that suffering is also mercy. Okay? So I'd like to stop there. We've gone pretty late. And I want to thank Triyuga Prabhu and Nanda Gopal Prabhu and Raghava Pandit and everyone who's taken part in this. This is our service for Gurudev. And it's a dangerous service. As we were singing from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that someone may start thinking that here I am, Loy Sadhu Vesh, Ani Upadesh, I'm dressed like a sadhu, I'm giving instructions, Ebodu Maya Ranga. This is Maya's big joke. We should always think like that. But at the same time, we do this as a service. If we do it as a service for Guru, Guru Maharaj used to tell us, he told me once, he said, when someone asks you to speak, you must, but you just repeat what you've heard from Guru, and don't think it belongs to you. And that kirtan of the disciple, he said on another occasion, is another name for shravan, for hearing. So if we just repeat what we've heard as a service, then it's very inspiring. It's very purifying. But we should understand that I'm not the real speaker. I'm not the proper person. We're just assisting something. So we'll go ahead and stop there. This is something today about how Krishna crushed the pride of Uddhava. And in our next session, every Tuesday morning, we intend to be here as long as Krishna allows. We're going to go on something and speak about how Uddhava first saw the gopis and what he saw in the gopis. We heard something about how the gopis saw Uddhava. Now we're going to hear something about what the gopis saw in Uddhava, what Uddhava saw in the gopis, what he could see in them. Very interesting topic. We'll go ahead and stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpa Darubhischa, Kripa Sindhu Vyeva cha.